Have you ever poured your heart and soul into a job, only to be betrayed in the end? Ellie did. For 15 years, she dedicated herself tirelessly, believing she had built a solid career. But in just one morning, everything crumbled. They thought she would break. They thought she would beg for another chance. But they forgot one crucial thing. Ellie was not someone who could be easily defeated. With intelligence, resilience, and a flawless plan, she turned failure into a triumphant victory. And what happened the following Monday was one of the most spectacular turnarounds you'll ever witness. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to hit like to support the channel, subscribe so you never miss another gripping story, and share this video to inspire those who might be searching for their own comeback moment. Because sometimes, losing everything is just the beginning of winning it all. Boss abruptly dismissed me after 15 years, but I knew it all along. They had no idea what was coming. Ellie had always believed in hard work, loyalty, and doing the right thing, and for 15 years, she had done exactly that at Harrington & Co., a mid-sized firm in Chicago where she had poured her sweat and soul into building its marketing department. She wasn't just another employee. She was the backbone of the team, the one who stayed late to fix last-minute messes, the one who trained every newbie, and the one who made sure Miranda, her boss, always looked good in front of the executives. And what did 15 years of loyalty get her? A meeting with HR. Ellie knew something was off the moment she got the calendar invite. Miranda had never been one for subtlety. The woman's idea of discretion was whispering loudly enough for everyone in the office to hear. And sure enough, the whispers had started the day before. Did you hear about the layoffs? I think some changes are coming. Poor Ellie. She has no idea. Oh, but Ellie did know. She had known for months. So when she walked into the HR office that Friday morning, she wasn't nervous. She wasn't even surprised. She was ready. The big announcement. Miranda sat at the head of the table, exuding corporate smugness. Her blonde bob was razor sharp, her navy blazer perfectly pressed, and her smile, that smile, was the kind that made people want to throw staplers. Ellie glanced at Brian from HR, who was sweating like he had just run a marathon. Poor guy. He was not built for corporate hitman duty. Ellie, Miranda began, leaning forward like a talk show host delivering fake sympathy. After 15 wonderful years, we've decided to restructure your position. Ellie arched an eyebrow. Restructure, huh? And by restructure you mean? Miranda's fake smile widened. Your role will no longer be needed as of next week. HR will help you transition out by Friday. Ellie let the words hang in the air. She could feel Miranda waiting for a reaction, shock, devastation, pleading. Anything to feed her ego. Instead, Ellie smiled. A genuine, relaxed, almost too chill smile. Got it. No problem. Miranda blinked. Twice. Brian, who had been bracing himself for tears or screaming, peered at Ellie like she was an alien. Well, you'll need to clean out your desk before the weekend, Miranda continued, now slightly off balance. Of course, Ellie nodded. But just to clarify, this decision has nothing to do with performance, correct? Miranda paused. She had not been expecting Ellie to stay this calm, let alone challenge her. Well, Miranda hesitated. Because if it were performance-related, I'd be very interested in reviewing my latest quarterly reports, Ellie said sweetly. You know, the ones where I single-handedly secured our biggest client deal last month? Oh, and the efficiency audit that showed our department's output increased by 40% in the last 2 years? But please, go on. Miranda's face twitched. Brian coughed uncomfortably. It's purely strategic, Miranda said through gritted teeth. Ah, of course, purely strategic. Ellie nodded like she totally believed it. Well, this has been a lovely chat. Thanks so much for your time. And with that, Ellie stood up, shook Miranda's hand, and walked out of the room like she was leaving a coffee date. Miranda was stunned. Brian? Even more stunned. And the entire office? Absolutely floored. The office reacts by. The time Ellie got back to her desk, the news had already spread faster than a company-wide email with reply all enabled. Jamie, Ellie's work bestie, practically flew into her cubicle. What happened? She whisper-shouted. They're restructuring my position, Ellie said, air-quoting dramatically. Those snakes, Jamie fumed. Oh my God, do you need help flipping a desk? Setting off the emergency sprinklers? I can create chaos in under 30 seconds. Just say the word. Ellie laughed. Relax, I'm fine. Jamie squinted at her. Fine? Ellie, you just got backstabbed by that Botoxed vulture and you're fine? Ellie smirked. Let's just say I saw it coming. Jamie's eyes narrowed. Okay, that smile is either I've made peace with this or I have an elaborate revenge plan already in motion. Which is it? Ellie just sipped her coffee. Jamie gasped. Oh my God, it's the second one, isn't it? Ellie winked. The secret they didn't know. As the office continued buzzing about her firing, Ellie leaned back in her chair, feeling strangely satisfied. Why? Because 6 months ago she had discovered something interesting. It had started with a small mistake in the budget reports, a number that didn't quite add up. Most people would have ignored it. Ellie didn't. She had dug deeper. And what she found? Miranda had been cooking the books. For months, Ellie had quietly gathered evidence. Emails, expense reports, confidential memos. She saved everything. And now she just had to wait for Monday, because Miranda thought she had won. But she had no idea what was coming next. Chapter 2. The Secret They Didn't Know. Monday morning arrived like a storm waiting to break. But Ellie was the lightning. She strolled into the office, coffee in hand, smile in place, like she hadn't been unceremoniously dismissed just 3 days ago. People stopped in their tracks as she walked by, whispering behind their mugs, peeking over cubicle walls like prairie dogs sensing danger. Jamie practically tackled her the moment she sat down. What are you doing here? Jamie whisper-shouted, her eyes the size of dinner plates. Ellie took a slow sip of her latte. Just tying up some loose ends. Jamie folded her arms. Ellie, you got fired. Fired people don't just casually show up on Monday morning. Ellie hummed. Depends on how you define fired. Jamie paused. Oh my God, you're about to drop a bomb, aren't you? Ellie grinned. Jamie gasped. You are? What is it? Do I need to film this? Oh, Jamie, you're going to want front row seats for this one. And with that, Ellie turned on her computer and got to work. The setup while Ellie was cool as a cucumber, Miranda was anything but. At precisely 9:17 a.m., the doors to the executive conference room burst open, and in stormed a team of auditors, 2 very serious-looking investors, and a legal representative from corporate compliance. The reaction was immediate. The office fell into dead silence. Brian from HR, instantly sweating. Miranda, pale as a ghost and gripping her coffee like it was a life raft. And Ellie? Ellie clicked refresh on her inbox, waiting for the fireworks. 3 months ago, how it all started the first time Ellie noticed something was off was when she saw a weird expense report land in her inbox. She was going over marketing costs when she found a discrepancy, $25,000 charged for an ad campaign that never existed. At first, she thought it was a typo. Then, she thought maybe someone had messed up an invoice. But when she cross-checked it, the paper trail led straight to Miranda. Miranda had been inflating expenses, manipulating budgets, and funneling company funds into personal projects, all while taking credit for Ellie's work and positioning herself for a promotion to VP Ellie. Didn't report it right away. No, she did something better. She gathered evidence. For months, she quietly compiled emails, financial records, internal memos, and expense approvals. She made backup copies, off-site storage, and even a fail-safe, just-in-case folder labeled vacation pics on her desktop. And last Friday night, she sent it all to corporate compliance, key investors, and legal. Anonymous, of course. Then, she sat back and waited. Monday, chaos ensues at exactly 9:32 a.m. Miranda was called into the conference room. By 9:45 a.m., her raised voice could be heard through the glass walls. By 10 a.m., 2 security guards were waiting outside. By 10:15 a.m., she stormed out, red-faced, furious, and, most importantly, fired. The entire office watched in stunned silence as Miranda grabbed her things and stomped toward the exit. And then, right as she passed Ellie's desk, Ellie leaned back in her chair, took a slow sip of coffee, and met her eyes. "Monday's fun, isn't it?" she said, grinning. Jamie, watching from the next cubicle, choked on her tea. The aftermath with Miranda out, there were some big changes. Brian from HR immediately resigned. Ellie wasn't sure if it was guilt or fear, but the man booked it like he was escaping a sinking ship. The CFO personally thanked Ellie for uncovering the fraud. The board offered her job back, and Ellie declined. "I appreciate it," she told them, "but I think I deserve better." And she did. Because while Miranda was packing up her things, Ellie was already fielding offers from companies that valued integrity, leadership, and the ability to pull off the most satisfying workplace revenge in history. The final touches. Ellie gathered her belongings for real this time. Zach, the nervous new guy, approached her. "Hey," he said, looking equal parts terrified and impressed. "So, I guess you knew this was coming, huh?" Ellie smirked. "Call it intuition." Zach hesitated. I think they might promote me to take over your role." Ellie handed him a USB drive. "Here's everything you need," she said. "Training manuals, project notes, and some advice. Never trust anyone who drinks that much corporate Kool-Aid." Zach blinked. "Wait, you're helping me? Even after they screwed you over?" Ellie smiled. "Zach, I don't believe in holding grudges. I believe in karma. And karma did just fine today." And with that, she walked out the door, head held high, into her next great adventure. Jamie, watching from the window, wiped a fake tear. "She's so majestic," she whispered. The last day, or so they thought. Ellie arrived at the office right on time Friday morning, not looking remotely like a woman who had just been fired. She didn't sulk. She didn't cry. Instead, she walked in like she owned the place, smiling at people like it was just another normal workday. And that unsettled people. Miranda had expected Ellie to slip away quietly, maybe even leave early to process her emotions. Instead, Ellie was calm, cheerful, and, most importantly, not acting like someone who had just lost her job. She knew people were watching her, whispering. Jamie cornered her in the break room before she even had time to make her coffee. "Okay. You need to tell me what's going on." Jamie folded her arms. "What do you mean?" Ellie asked innocently, pouring herself a cup. Jamie narrowed her eyes. "You're acting suspiciously normal. If this were me, I'd be throwing office supplies or stealing the fancy stapler from the executive suite. But you're just smiling. What do you know that I don't?" Ellie sipped her coffee and smirked. "Oh, Jamie, Monday is going to Be interesting, Jamie gasped. You're up to something, Ellie winked. The goodbyes. With a twist be noon, most of the office had stopped what they were doing just to watch Ellie. Normally, when someone gets fired, there's an awkward, quiet exit. A few colleagues might say goodbye, some might avoid eye contact, and then the person would vanish like they never existed. Not Ellie. Ellie made a whole event out of it. She walked around, personally saying goodbye to everyone, shaking hands, and even giving heartfelt, "It's been great working with you" speeches. People were shocked. Some even teared up. Miranda? She was fuming, because Ellie wasn't acting like a victim. She was acting like she was leaving on her own terms. Then, right before leaving, Ellie walked over to Zach, the new guy. Zach was young, nervous, and looked like he had been caught in the middle of an office political war he didn't sign up for. "Hey, Zach," Ellie said, lowering her voice. Zach jumped slightly. Yeah?" Ellie smiled. "Don't worry too much about what you're seeing today. Things have a way of working themselves out." Zach blinked. "What does that mean?" Ellie patted his shoulder. "Let's just say, Monday will be fun." And with that, she walked out the door, leaving behind a very confused new hire and an office full of stunned employees. The weekend prep. Game on. The moment Ellie got home, she kicked off her heels, poured herself a glass of wine, and got to work. This wasn't just revenge, this was justice. Step 1. Send the receipts. Ellie compiled every document, every fraudulent invoice, and every shady financial report Miranda had signed off on. Then, she forwarded them anonymously to the company's biggest investors and regulatory agencies. Corporate fraud? Yeah, they were going to love hearing about this. Step 2. Give the board a reason to panic. She scheduled an anonymous tip to go live on Monday morning, flagging the company's financial discrepancies to the board and external auditors. Step 3. Sit back and enjoy the show. Once everything was in motion, Ellie closed her laptop, took another sip of wine, and smiled. Because by Monday morning, the real fun would begin. Monday is coming. Ellie didn't just leave Harrington Company, she left a ticking time bomb. Miranda thought she had won, but what she didn't know, Ellie had already checkmated her. The calm before the storm Ellie arrived at Harrington & Co. at exactly 9 a.m. on Monday morning. She wasn't supposed to be here. Technically, she had no reason to step foot inside the building ever again, but she had planned this moment too well to miss it. So she walked through those glass doors with the confidence of a CEO, holding a freshly brewed latte in one hand and a knowing smile on her lips. And the second she stepped inside, she felt it. The tension, the palpable panic in the air. The way people stopped mid-conversation to stare at her, their eyes flickering between her and the closed-door conference room down the hall. Something was happening, and she already knew exactly what it was. She strolled toward her old desk like it was just another workday, casually waving at Jamie, who was sitting stiff as a statue in her chair. "You did this, didn't you?" Jamie whisper-hissed the second Ellie got close. Ellie sipped her coffee. "No idea what you're talking about." Jamie glanced around frantically, leaning in. "Ellie, there are investors, there are auditors. Legal is here. HR looks like they're about to pass out. You did something." Ellie smirked. "I just sent a few emails." Jamie gasped. "You blew up the company." Ellie shrugged, completely unbothered. "I just nudged it in the right direction." The moment Miranda realized she was screwed from the second Miranda arrived at work, she knew something was wrong. It started with the unexpected meeting request from the board of directors. Then came the investors, then corporate auditors, and then, just as she started breaking into a cold sweat, came legal. She had barely sat down in the conference room when the head of corporate compliance, A stern-looking woman with steel-gray hair slid a thick folder across the table. "Miranda," the woman said in a clipped voice, "would you care to explain this?" Miranda opened the folder and froze. Inside were financial reports, email chains, falsified budgets, all with her name attached. Her heart stopped. I don't understand," she stammered. "Where did you get these?" The woman raised an eyebrow. "An anonymous whistleblower." Miranda's stomach dropped. Anonymous? She knew exactly who it was. Ellie's moment of triumph at 9:45 a.m. The conference. Room door flew open. Miranda stormed out, her face drained of all color, sweat forming at her temples. She looked disoriented, panicked. People started whispering. Jamie leaned toward Ellie. "Oh my God, I think she's gonna pass out." Ellie just watched. Calmly, casually, like she was watching a live-action soap opera. Miranda locked eyes with Ellie. For a split second, there was pure hatred in them. Then, before Miranda could say a word, HR stepped forward. "Ms. Harrington," Brian from HR said, looking like he wanted to evaporate on the spot. "You need to come with us." Miranda whipped around. "What? No, now," and just like that, Miranda was escorted out. Jamie clutched her chest. "I think I just witnessed the greatest moment in workplace history." Ellie took a slow sip of her coffee. "Told you Monday would be fun." The unexpected promotionase. The chaos unfolded, Ellie noticed. Zach, the nervous new hire, sitting at his desk looking absolutely terrified. She walked over, leaning on his desk. "You okay?" she asked. Zach looked up at her like she had just revealed herself to be an undercover FBI agent. You knew this was going to happen, didn't you?" Ellie smirked. "Call it intuition." Zach swallowed hard. I just got an email. They want to meet with me about a new position." Ellie handed him a USB drive. "Here's everything you need," she said. "Training manuals, project notes, and some advice." Zach blinked. "What kind of advice?" Ellie smiled. "Don't be a Miranda." Zach nodded furiously. "Got it. Noted. Absolutely." Ellie patted his shoulder. "You'll do great, kid." And with that, she walked away, leaving behind a very confused, newly promoted Zach in an office full of employees, still trying to process the absolute train wreck that just happened. The final scene. Ellie walks away. A winter bee lunchtime. The company was in full-blown crisis mode. Miranda, gone, HR, scrambling, investors, livid, Ellie, completely unbothered. She gathered her things, waved goodbye to Jamie, and strolled toward the exit, head held high, victorious. As she passed Brian from HR, he nervously cleared his throat. "Ellie, before you go, we'd really like to discuss possibly bringing you back?" Ellie paused. Then she smiled. "Oh, Brian, that's sweet." She took one last sip of her coffee, then dropped the empty cup into the trash. "But I think I deserve better." And with that, she walked out the door, stepping into her bright new future. Behind her, Miranda was nowhere to be seen. But the last thing Ellie heard before she left, the sound of security escorting Miranda off the premises. Poetic justice. Miranda's last walk of Shamili didn't bother looking back as she stepped outside the office doors. She didn't have to. The sound of heels clicking frantically against the tile, the murmurs of employees watching in shock, and the unmistakable, sharp voice of Miranda arguing with security told Ellie everything she needed to know. It was over. Miranda was done. As Ellie reached the curb, she casually pulled out her phone and checked the news. Her anonymous tip had gone public. A well-known business journalist had already picked up the story, and the headline was glorious. "Harrington and Commerce in crisis. Executive fired amid financial." Scandal. Ellie smirked. Perfect timing. Behind her, Miranda was still arguing. This is ridiculous. You can't just throw me out like this, she screeched. I was an executive. Security remained unfazed. Ma'am, please step off the property. Miranda turned, her eyes landing on Ellie. For a split second, there was pure, seething hatred in her expression. But beneath that, defeat. Ellie simply smiled, tilting her head. By the way, she said casually, Monday really was fun. Thanks for making it possible. Miranda's eye twitched. Ellie winked, turned on her heel, and walked away, while Miranda stood frozen, humiliated, on the curb. The job offers start rolling, and by the time Ellie got home, her inbox was overflowing. Apparently, taking down corporate fraud made you very employable. Companies, some of them big names in the industry, were offering her positions left and right. We admire your integrity and leadership. We'd love to have someone with your expertise on board. Your work speaks for itself. Let's discuss a leadership role with us. Ellie scrolled through the emails, completely unfazed. There was one, in particular, that caught her eye. Willow and Hart Consulting. She had heard of them. A firm known for its strong ethics, real leadership, and a no-BS approach to business. Her kind of place. She picked up the phone and called the number in the email. Ellie. Carter, a confident voice answered. I was hoping you'd call. Ellie smiled. Let's talk. The final decision. A week later, Ellie sat in a sleek, modern office overlooking the city skyline. Across from her was Emma Hart, one of the founding partners of Willow and Hart. Ellie, Emma said, sliding a folder across the table. We don't just want to hire you. We want you to lead, build something with us. Ellie opened the folder, and her breath hitched slightly. The offer was bigger than she expected. Not just a job. An executive position. A chance to run things her way. And the salary? More than double what she ever made at Harrington. Ellie leaned back, thoughtful. You know, she said with a grin, I was fired last week. Emma laughed. You weren't fired. You were freed. Ellie grinned. You know what? You're absolutely right. She picked up the pen and signed. The final encounter. 2 weeks later, Ellie was grabbing a coffee at her favorite cafe, enjoying her new stress-free life, when she heard a familiar voice behind her. Ellie? She turned, coffee in hand, and came face to face with Miranda. Only, Miranda didn't look like herself anymore. Her usual expensive wardrobe? Gone. Her perfect hair? Slightly frazzled. Her confidence? Completely shattered. Ellie raised an eyebrow. Miranda, fancy seeing you here. Miranda forced a tight smile. I actually just had an interview. It didn't go well. Ellie sipped her coffee. Ah, tough job market, huh? Miranda exhaled sharply. You could say that. There was a long pause. Then, in a voice so low it was almost a whisper, Miranda muttered, For what it's worth, you were always good at your job. Better than me. Ellie tilted her head. Was that an apology? No, not quite. Miranda wasn't capable of real humility. But this was as close as she'd ever get. Ellie took one last sip of her latte, then set the cup down. Take care, Miranda. Then she turned and walked away. Fade out. Ellie's bright new futuras. Ellie stepped onto the bustling city streets. She breathed in the fresh, crisp air of a brand new chapter. She was no longer just another corporate worker. She was no longer stuck under bad management. She was no longer afraid to stand up for herself. She had played the long game and won, and the best part, she didn't just get revenge. She got something better. Freedom. With a confident stride, she walked toward her new office, her new career, and the life she actually deserved. And for the first time in years, Ellie was truly happy. Ellie walked out of that building not just with her freedom, but with a powerful lesson. Sometimes, losing something isn't the end, but the beginning of a brand new chapter. She chose not to be defined by betrayal, but by how she responded to it. Betrayal doesn't determine who we are. Our reaction to it does. And Ellie proved that with intelligence, perseverance, and self-respect, you can do more than just reclaim justice. You can rise to something far greater than you ever imagined. Did Ellie's story resonate with you? Have you ever experienced a turning point in your life like she did? Drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Because no matter where you are in the world, we love connecting with you. And if you found this story worth sharing, don't forget to hit like to spread the inspiration, subscribe so you don't miss our next powerful story, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder that setbacks aren't the end. They're often the start of something even better. Thank you for being here, for supporting this channel, and for being part of this amazing community. Your engagement, your thoughts, and your presence mean the world to us. We can't wait to see you in the next video.